smells a bunch of new books getting ready to put out on the shelves. We'll start off with 6 Goodbyes We Never Said. This one is about a girl who loses her dad. He's a hero Marine, and she's dealing with her grief for losing her dad, but she also has OCD and general anxiety disorder, so a little bit of mental health issues in there as well. Punching the Air is a story about a boy who is wrongly imprisoned. Jason Reynolds, very popular author in our library, highly recommends it. And it is also one of those that is written in verse. So it looks like it's a pretty, it looks like a big, thick book, but it's a nice fast read because it's written in poetry. Santiago's Road Home. It's about a boy who has bus fare to go home one day in Mexico. He lives in Mexico, but his grandma is kind of abusive, and he decides, you know what? I don't want to go home. I'd rather make a break for the border of the US. And so it's his journey of trying to illegally come into the United States and what happens when he gets to the border. Tweet Cute, rom-com type of book about a girl who kind of is falling in love with a guy, but she's also involved in a Twitter war. But what she doesn't know is that the Twitter war she's involved with is the guy that she's falling in love with in real life. The Grace Year. Oh my gosh, I hope that there is a sequel to this book. I love this book. Very, reminds me a lot of The Hunger Games. Lots of action and kind of suspense, but this society sends their women off, I think it's before they turn 16, because they're afraid of their power that they start to get. And so they send them off into the wilderness, and then they kind of, chaos basically ensues. So The Grace Year. All He Knew is a historical fiction type of book. It's set in the 1940s, and it's about a boy who's deaf, and he just kind of struggles. And back in that time, they didn't really have the best ways of helping people who had special needs, and so his parents just don't know what to do to deal with him, and so they just send him off to an institution, and this institution is a pretty cruel place. So it's about this boy, and then there's a guy who, instead of entering the draft for the war, because it's during World War II time, he signs up to help at the hospital or the institution that this boy is at, and it's the story of these two kind of working together and trying to help each other out. Keep It Together, Kiko Carter, just a really fun story about a junior high kid, friendships, boys, just a really cute cover too. Show Me a Sign, another book about a person who is deaf. This one is also set in the past, and this one kind of has a little bit of a mystery to it too. There's a lot of people on this island that are becoming deaf, and so they're trying to figure out what the deal is with that. Chirp, just kind of a fun summertime type of story. It's about a girl who breaks her arm falling off the balance beam in gymnastics, and then her family moves, and she kind of has a secret. There's something sad that happened that's secret, and she's not really telling anybody, but it's about her dealing with this secret and moving to a new place. One Last Shot. If any Holy Moly fans are out there, I know we watch Holy Moly during my lunch shifts here at school, but One Last Shot is about a kid whose dad is obsessed with sports, but he doesn't really like sports so much until he discovers mini golf, and he's like, hey, this is something I can do. And then his dad kind of starts to become obsessed, and we need mini golf lessons, and we need to be the best. So One Last Shot. Nowhere on Earth kind of reminds me a little bit of Hatchet. It's about a girl who starts to notice men with suits following her brother around in their wilderness, Alaska hometown. And so they stow away on a cargo plane to escape these crazy men. And then, of course, the plane crashes, and these men find them, and they have machine guns. And so they're in the Alaskan wilderness trying to survive. The Other Half of Happy, a story about a girl who is half American, half Guatemalan. And so just her being in middle school and lots of middle school issues. There's also something going on with her brother. Her brother kind of has some special needs, and so the family's trying to figure out what they can do to help her little brother. Clap When You Land, a story about a girl whose father dies, and when he dies, she finds out that he had some secrets, and surprise, she has a sister. This one is another one that kind of looks like a big fat book, but it is written in poetry. And this author has won lots of awards. She writes really, The Poet X was a really, really good book that I read too, also written in poetry. A Place at the Table, a story about a girl who is Islamic and a girl who is Jewish, and they become friends, and kind of about how their parents are dealing with trying to become citizens. Wink is a story about a boy who finds out that he has eye cancer, and so he's dealing with that. It kind of has some illustrations and comics and things in it too, so it's reminds me a little bit of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Not as many illustrations as Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but Guest, Mary Downing Hahn, very popular author in our library, just a good creepy read. American Road Trip, about a boy whose brother fought in the war in Iraq and came home with PTSD, and so they take a road trip to try and help his brother. So an interesting read about mental health. All That I Can Fix deals with gun violence and gun issues, and also mental health. I think there's suicide issues in this book as well. The Waking Forest, a story, a good creepy story, witches, dark forest, magic, things like that. The Lucky Ones, a book about a school shooting and the girl that survived the school shooting and how she's living with survivor's guilt. Her twin brother was killed in the shooting. Normal is a real life story similar to the boy, the main character in Wonder. So he had the same condition that the boy in Wonder had, and so this is kind of the story of his life and what he's gone through. And then the last one, Turtle Boy, a story about a boy who gets made fun of because his chin, and so he kind of just is like a turtle. He just kind of sticks his head back in and he keeps to himself. He doesn't really go out and do anything. For his bar mitzvah service project, he starts visiting a kid who has cancer in the hospital, and this boy has a bucket list that things that he wants to do since he's so sick, and so he starts to try and get this guy out of his shell and go do these fun things with him. So lots of new books. Let me know which books you want to check out. Place a hold. Thanks.